If you've watched my channel before, you know that I've dove deep into running, especially marathon training. I ran London Marathon this year. I'm planning to run the New York City Marathon later this year. This video is sponsored by Pliability. More on them later. And I love testing the best tools and strategies for optimizing whatever I'm chasing after. And this has become running currently. So in this video, I'm going to cover all the things that I personally wish that I knew when it came to running before I started, because I made so many mistakes. And if I had just learned these things beforehand, I would have been fine. So today, I want you to get a leap ahead in terms of all the knowledge that you need to know. We're going to cover everything from training plans to shoes, clothes, nutrition, everything you must know, all in this guide. Come back and watch it again if you didn't absorb all of it. Let's get started. So the very first thing that I learned was running is bad for your knees. So in that case, we should all not run anymore. And that's the end of the video. We'll see you next time. I'm kidding. Honestly, the amount of times I hear people say that is pretty absurd. But I don't think running is bad for your knees if you do these things properly. And the most important thing of all, the highest priority, if you have ever watched me, the 80-20 of it all, which is 20% of your efforts lead to 80% of your results, Pareto's law. So do the least amount of work, get the highest amount of output, is your training plan. Buying compression boots is not going to create an 80% impact. It might optimize you 1%, but your training plan is the most important part. That's the first section. And the first layer of a training plan, if you're untrained runner, you're just getting into it, the first step, couch to 5K, couch to marathon, is showing up. It's consistency, it's habits, it's finding ways to incorporate this new activity, this new regime into your day-to-day lifestyle. Because personally, I love working out. I love running, I love weightlifting, yoga, a whole bunch of other things. I still struggle with consistency and habits. But I have some strategies that I use to make sure I stay consistent and achieve my goals in any of those fields. If you've ever read Atomic Habits, he has the 4 principles of habits, and I love to follow these. Principle number 1 is obvious. Environment. It's physical things and people. So family, friends, roommates, relationships, they're on board. They're not going to push you against running. They're going to actually allow you and make it easier for you to run. So maybe it's having a conversation, telling them so that way they support you and they don't try to pull you out to grab drinks. The second step is products. So let's say I decide that my best running time is in the morning before work, whatever that is, where there's going to be least amount of interference. Then prepping my clothes, so my shorts, pants, whatever, shirts, running shoes, socks, setting that up right by the door. So that way, right as soon as I wake up, it's effortless to get into my clothing to start running for the day. Principle number 2, attractive. Now, I'm not talking about myself because I'm clearly not that attractive. Make it fun, motivational. So one thing you can do is if you love nature, maybe you live in New York City, you can go run in Central Park. You're like, hey, I get to go sightseeing. I get to go see new things. I get to be amongst the trees. Maybe it's running with friends. You like to be social. There are so many run clubs now. It's absolutely absurd, but also awesome at the same time. Find a run club that looks fun, enjoyable. People that you might enjoy becoming friends with, go to that run club. Now it's attractive. The amount of TikToks that I see where run clubs are just about hooking up is embarrassing. Not that kind of attractive. Make it attractive in terms of the experience. Make it fun. Principle number 3, make it easy. Standardize it and make it so you can be consistent. So maybe it's like, hey, every morning at 8 a.m. as soon as I wake up, I go on a 10-minute run, walk, whatever that is. Find a time that's gonna have minimal interference, and maybe it's repeatable. So that way you're just showing up every day. It's not about running fast. It's not about running for a certain heart rate. It's not about a certain distance. It's about showing up, and maybe it's time. Time doesn't change. It's easy to standardize. You could be like, I'm gonna run every other day for 10 to 15 minutes. Building consistency, that is the most important piece. Law number 4, satisfying. So one of the biggest challenges I had with running is I personally have always hated running. I used to swim growing up, and we had 2 track days per week, which was running. And I am embarrassed to say that I asked my coach if I could not do those days and go to the gym and lift weights instead. That's how much I disliked running growing up. And as soon as I got into running, it probably took me 3 months of being forced by external factors like friends and relationships, where I started to fall in love with it. It became satisfying because I got the runner's high, but that took a while. 1, in terms of the duration that I was running, and 2, just doing it consistently enough where I started to feel this like, ooh, I feel really nice after my run that I want to keep doing this. So if you're able to make it obvious, attractive, and easy, over time, as you extend the duration that you run, you start to feel that runner's high and make it more satisfying. Until that point, maybe find some other kind of reward where you can satisfy yourself with that might not be detrimental. Like getting donuts after every run is probably not the best decision, although I'd love to do that. But maybe it's rewarding yourself with a nice bath, a magnesium bath after every run. Something that you really, really enjoy that can also be healthy for you. Now that you've made it a habit, that's like the first layer of an important training plan is consistency, showing up. When I first started running, I was run walking. I still sometimes do that because it's not about the running itself. It's about the showing up and being consistent, developing a strong habit. And this is how I developed my habit. I made it obvious by having a shoe wall of all my running shoes. So when I wake up, I see my running shoes every day and I know I can grab my shoe. Boom, it's obvious. 2, attractive. I make it fun by going to run clubs because it's a social experience. And for me, that's enjoyable and fun. 3, easy. I add the event for these run clubs to my calendar, so now it's easy, it's consistent. I know that Endorphins has a run every Saturday at 8 a.m. at Washington Square Park, and because it's just repetitive, boom, it's easy. I just show up, grab the shoes on the wall. Fun because it's a run club. Easy because it's every time at the same location in the same place. And 4, satisfying. Once I finish the Endorphins run, usually we end at a coffee shop, and I feel this runner's high, and the enjoyment from is so satisfying. And because of that, it became a routine. I love going to Saturday runs with Endorphins. Now, the base layer 1 is showing up, developing the habit, being consistent. When I first started, it was run walk. You can find run walk run clubs. Join that. Build your base. Improving your fitness is the next level up on this pyramid. I personally found the best way is you download some of these apps which will give you training programs. I prefer to go with a running coach. I'm using my coach Parker, which I can leave a link for him down in the description below. And I set a goal, a specific goal. So I was like, hey Parker, I want to run the New York City Marathon. I want to do sub 4 hours, sub 3:30, whatever that time goal is. Can you train me in the next 8, 12, 16, 20 weeks to get me to that goal? Then my coach creates that workout. Finding a good coach is hard, so I interviewed like 12 coaches before I selected Parker, and he creates a program based on my current fitness to get me to that level of fitness within reason. I can't be like, hey, Coach Parker, can I run a sub 2 hour marathon? He's gonna be like, that's gonna be a bit challenging in this time frame, so let's have a conversation on a realistic goal. But now that I have a final date, which New York City Marathon, November 3rd, I think it is, I have a start time and then the amount of weeks I need to train. I now have a training plan with days that I need to work out, how long I need to run, what I need to do. When these things start to get defined, I'm much more accountable to show up and make it happen. So I personally found when you set a date and a specific goal in mind over here, it's much, much easier to make that journey. It's not gonna be perfect, but it's much, much easier to work your way to that end goal. I have videos on Zone 2, VO2 Max, if you wanna go watch those, but it's very important when it comes to training plan to have a wide range of types of workouts. You're gonna have easy stuff, you're gonna have hard stuff, you're gonna have middle stuff. All of them are important depending on your specific goal. There's no one way to do things, and every coach is gonna have a different philosophy and way of doing stuff, so keep that in mind. But showing up and training is always gonna be the most important piece. I like to make it effortless. I pick the coach that automatically integrates with my watch, so that way he writes the workouts, it shows up on my watch that day, I press go, and my watch guides me through the workout. So those are other ways to make the habits even easier, which we'll talk about once we get to the watch section. The importance of a training plan is not only to help you achieve your goals and to have consistency in habits, but to prevent injury as well. If you watched my first Zone 2 video, I think it was, I started to struggle with shin splints. Luckily, I don't think I ever got a stress fracture, but it can be a very common injury. I've heard people get like hip issues, knee issues, all kinds of lower body challenges with running. And the 80-20 of why people get injured usually is because they're adding too many miles too fast. So they're putting on too much too soon. And that's why it's so important to have a good training plan that's easing you into it and guiding you in the right process. I know there's a rule of like, don't add 10% more mileage from one week to the next, which is a good way to kind of think about it. But let's say you start at 1 mile, you add 10%, that's 1.1 miles. It's gonna be a while to get to like a 20-mile week. Yes, those are good things to think about, but don't make them forcing functions for how you do things. When it comes to injury prevention, something I think that is really important for runners is mobility. And I definitely need to focus on it more. I've been struggling to stay consistent, and I've been looking for a tool that makes it seamless and keeps me accountable. So one way that I've actually tried to solve the problem is this new app called Pliability. And that's why for this marathon prep, I'm using Pliability because I want to stay mobile and healthy, and I need something that's effortless to use because if I don't do it, I'm going to be more prone to injury. And since I already have a running coach, it's super easy to integrate Pliability into my training routine. And Pliability works for all levels, especially if you're a beginner runner. It's kind of like insurance. As someone who just ran the New York City Marathon this year, injury-free, who did not run it last year, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen again. And since I focus more on pliability, I have less pain in my shins, my feet and my quads and my glutes don't feel as tight. And if you watch my channel, you know I love all the gadgets, and Pliability has actually partnered up with Whoop, where I can get guided exercises based on my Whoop activity, like recovery and strain. So to learn more about Pliability and get your mobility game on, click the link in my description. It helps support the channel, and I want to thank Pliability for sponsoring this video. And speaking of nice to have, let's talk about shoes. They might be one of the most important nice to have because if you don't have good shoes, there's a higher probability that you could get injured. Now, I did make a video where I went to all the different shoe stores to kind of see what their recommendations were. And the biggest thing that I've learned is shoe store employees might give you different responses based on kind of what their motivation factors are. But I do recommend getting yourself fitted for what might be the best shoe for your personal running style, because at different paces, your running form, how your body is shaped, the way that you run, even the way that your feet are shaped are going to define the different types of shoes that you might need, right? There's factors like heel drop, which is like how high is the heel from the toes. I was always in the field of I want zero drop shoes with cushion because I run on concrete, which we can talk about running surfaces. Having wide toe box because I come from like a barefoot shoes background for walking and I wanted something as close as possible for running. But I quickly learned from my friend, Jonah Rosner, you should follow his Instagram, where if you have a higher heel drop, so the heels are higher than the toes, it's more likely that the shoe will cause you to take the stress off from your calves and put it on your quads. And thus you might have less probability for shin splints based on like how strong you already are. So because of that, I no longer worry about what's the heel drop on my shoe. But the things that I think are important is make sure the shoe fits. Don't get shoes that are way too loose. I have wide feet, so I'm a big proponent on wide toe boxes, or I'll get a shoe size bigger if they don't provide wide. And then I don't wear the same shoes back to back because I like to let the foam kind of come back. And I also track the mileage of my shoes on Strava, or you could use your watch or whatever it is. We'll talk about tracking runs. So that way when I hit the 250 to 400 mile, whatever that specific like recommended limit is, I usually take it down a notch because of my personal body weight. I will replace those shoes because as you wear down the shoes over time, based on your body weight, how you run, and how long you've had them, the foam is going to deteriorate slowly and it's going to provide less support and cushion than it might. So replacing shoes is important. Finding the right shoes for you is really important. And the best way to do that is to go to in-person stores. Now, shoes aren't the only thing you want to wear. It is important to also wear clothing because at least in most parts of the US, if you do run without clothing, that's not really recommended. The most important part of the outfit to me is your shorts, pants, leggings, whatever's on the bottom, because you're most likely going to take a shirt off. At least I do when it's really hot outside. Or if you're just going to wear a sports bra, you might take the upper layer shirt off as well, especially as a man. I get nipple chafing, so running with a shirt is not ideal. And it could be less laundry too if I don't have to carry a shirt. But I do need to carry stuff with me like my house keys, car keys, phone, camera, whatever it is, gels, other nutrition. And I need shorts or leggings that can do that without it wobbling everywhere. So if I wear basketball shorts with pockets, not good, no bueno. When it comes to a vest, that's another option. I prefer not to have too many things on my chest. If I'm not doing anything over 90 minutes, I will not carry nutrition or hydration with me. But there are also those naked bands. I've actually worn those. I prefer that over the vest. So it's really a preference thing. So it's maybe trying the vest, trying those naked bands that go around your waist where you can store as much nutrition and water as you need. And then lastly is light. When you're running outside in the sun, please wear sunglasses. I know Huberman says get your sunlight, and that is correct. Get, you know, your 10 to 15 minutes, but if it's very bright in the middle of the day, wear sunglasses. It's gonna protect your eyes. And then sunscreen. I always like to wear a hat, and I always wear it forwards because I don't want to get too many wrinkles on my face. You can also wear sunscreen. The one thing I notice if I wear sunscreen like on my forehead and I sweat, it drips into my eyes. So one thing to be careful about, I can only wear sunscreen down here. And then two is the wind. When it does get windy, the sunglasses can also protect your eyes from the wind because I can get dust and particles in it. Sometimes I'll wear like a windbreaker jacket. Snow, I don't really run in snow, but you can. Just make sure you have the right grips.
It's the perfect texture for running. Very low impact on its dry snow so your feet don't get wet.
We've seen a lot of people out here, like you said, running, sledding, just enjoying it. One thing, oops.
So now we have our training plan. We have our injury prevention plan, we have our shoes, and we have clothes. Do you need anything else to run? No, but it's nice to have, you know, kind of nice to track your run. So I wear 2 watches, yes, naughty boy. You don't need watches, your phone. I know a lot of people love to publish to Strava. You can follow me there at Shervin Shares and Instagram and X and TikTok. But, and I think it's just joyful, I guess. I think we love posting our runs, liking, posting photos, giving kudos, whatever that is. So you don't need a watch to track it. The newest iPhones, I want to say 14 and up, have multi-band GPS. So they're going to have the highest accuracy GPS when there's tall buildings. You can use your phone to run. You know, if you bought those shorts, leggings, whatever it is with tight pockets on the sides, you slide your phone in and track it with Strava. The only challenge is you got to start the workout on Strava, slide it in your pocket, and then when you're done, pull the phone out and then press pause again, which is just a few seconds extra that's gonna be added on the beginning and the end of your run. Not the most ideal process, but it gets the job done. Build the habit, get those things first. If you feel like you're running enough, you've checked all the other boxes, then we can upgrade to a watch. Or you already have some kind of watch, maybe an Apple Watch or some kind of smartwatch that potentially tracks runs, that's your next option. I'm a big Apple Watch fan, so if you're just getting into running, most of the Apple Watches are good enough. I've learned that most people that have Apple Watches, they can be old. So if you're going to start marathon training and doing bigger events, your old Apple Watch might not work. The new Series 10 Apple Watch, the Apple Watch Ultra 2 do have a strong enough battery, which I have videos on that, to get you through marathon training and doing the actual marathon. I think I did a 20-mile run with the Series 10 and it burned through half the battery. So I could probably run 40 miles with my Series 10 and I would be fine. But then there are also cheap watch options that you can buy, like the Coros Pace Pro, the Coros Pace 3, the Garmin 165. If you're trying to get a beginner watch, that's a good way to start. If you're willing to spend more money and you live in a big city, I do recommend getting like the Garmin 265 or the 965. I would say that's more mid-tier. If you're willing to spend more money, that's where the Apple Watch Ultra 2, the Garmin Fenix 8, the Coros Apex 2 Pro, those are like $800 to $1,200 watches. They're gonna be the best in terms of battery life, feature sets. But if you're looking at those watches, you either have the money to spend and you're like, whatever, I'll spend the money, or there's very specific use cases that you need those watches for. Like for the Garmin, I'm using a sweat tracker or these other kind of tertiary tools. They're not necessary when you're first getting into running and trying to develop the habit. And one thing that Apple Watches and almost all modern watches do now is give you advanced running metrics. So things like cadence, stride, which comes into running form, our next category. I did an interview with Dr. Andy Galpin and I asked him, what are your recommendations when it comes to someone just getting into running?
Hire a coach, hire a service at some point that can just watch you run, even if it's one time, right? You want to avoid catastrophe.
Now, I believe that it's more important to just start running, like get out there, build the habit. That's step one. And then maybe get your running form analyzed once you're consistent, because most people can't even be consistent. Like, let's be honest, I'm one of them. But I did go to a running lab where I got my running analyzed. And the most common thing I hear is, oh, you're a heel striker, you're a toe striker. Which one's better? Which one's worse? From talking to experts, that does not matter. It's about running properly for your body. And every body is drastically different. So one of the things that this running lab told me is, how does your leg land in proportion to your body? Which muscles are you activating or not activating when you're running? And I learned that, hey, I need to activate my glutes a little bit more. I might want to try doing exercises that help shift the way that my body leans, so that way I land on my leg in a different form. I have a whole video on that, so that I can minimize the impact on my legs and feet. Because I am a heavier guy, I'm about 210 pounds. And the heavier you are, the more impact each landing of your leg is gonna have on your body, and the more likely you are to get injured. So heavier people, be careful. So when it comes to running form, going to a gait analysis location near you is what I kind of recommend. It's not going to be a thing that changes overnight, but it's something that you work on and to slightly change your running form to optimize it for better running as well as like less injuries. And the reason that is important is because running is like left foot, right foot. You're just doing the same motion over and over again. And if you're doing like 1 mile, 3 miles, 4 or 5 miles, that's probably okay. But then when you start to do long runs, like 15 miles, 20 miles, ultra marathons, super ultra, I don't know what they are, but like when it gets into that high range, 100 milers, Leadville 100, bro, things start to change at that level where these small things start to matter more, because it's like boom, 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 boom. Like it goes from like 1,000, 5,000 steps to like 20,000, 30,000 steps. And when you multiply X by 30,000, it's drastically worse or drastically better. And one of those things for me is chafing. When you're running, I'm moving my arms. Rub, rub, rub. I don't have a thigh gap. My legs rub against each other when I'm running. So one thing I have to do is put on Vaseline. I put Vaseline between my legs, around that area. I also put it underneath my armpits and my lats, so that way they don't rub as much. When it comes to feet, you know, they're in your shoes. If it's the wrong size, like too tight, they could be rubbing up against each other, especially your toes, and then up against the edge of your shoe, especially when you get new shoes too, that you'll develop blisters. So one thing I've noticed, if I wear toe socks, they're all gonna be separated. It helps stretch out the shoe a little bit more, minimizes blisters. Sometimes I'll wear compression socks because that just potentially helps the blood flow back up, because I'm just running all the time and all my blood's rushing to my feet. And your feet are going to swell when you run. So especially on these long runs, your feet swell up and they're going to be much bigger inside your shoe and there's more friction. So for me, I think compression socks help keep my feet a little bit smaller, keep that blood flow moving out, so that way there's not as much friction. So when you start doing marathon training, these longer runs, remember there's more preparation before and there's more preparation that you must do just to minimize any kind of these other factors. And there are two things from long runs that I usually do that I won't do in any other kind of running, and that's nutrition and hydration. So nutrition, I need to consume carbs while I'm running on these long runs, because if you don't, if you've ever watched my Zone 2 video or the VO2 Max, you can see when I'm burning fats and carbs, you're burning X grams per hour. Our body can only store so many carbs, and after running at a certain pace for a period of time, you're gonna be out of carbs. your glycogen stores are going to drop. You're going to have no glucose, no sugar, nothing in your body to power you. And if you don't eat, you will feel exhausted. A lot of things can happen. So one thing I try to carry with me is gels, drinks with carbohydrates in them, caffeine, ketones, anything that's not going to upset my stomach that I can consume while running, that's going to provide me energy, that is based on carbs, sugars, things that are just simple, ideally minimally processed. And I only carry that when I'm doing more than 90 minutes of running. Second is electrolytes. I actually got a sweat tracker recently that I've been using, and it shows that on some of these bigger runs, I could lose 2 to 3 grams of sodium in that entire run. That most likely means I need to consume that many grams of sodium to replenish my stores. And yes, we get a lot of sodium from our diets, but when working out, we also need to add in a little bit more sodium too. So I do carry sodium with me that I'll put in water while I'm running, and or I will also get drinks that have a mix of electrolytes and carbs, so that way I can satiate what I need when it comes to sodium and electrolytes. Our next section is safety. Depending on who you are, where you're running, there's gonna be multiple factors around safety. Daytime, nighttime, right? Lights. Some watches have like lights that you can run with, which I do appreciate. If you're running on the sidewalk, when you're traveling and still trying to get your consistent habit in, you need to worry about safety mechanisms. I think I went to Edinburgh and I wanted to run and I didn't know where. And I started to follow this path that I saw on Strava. And 30 minutes in, I'm on the street. And I wasn't wearing anything that was like bright enough, which I kind of wish I did. When you're running in a place you don't know, making sure that you're visible, making sure that you have enough space between the things that could potentially injure you, and being able to notify friends and family. So whether that's carrying a phone with you, carrying an Apple Watch that has a cellular chip inside, so that way if anything does happen, you can still call emergency services without a plan, or having fall detection on a watch that connects to your phone that can call somebody if something goes wrong. So make sure to take into account the places that you're running and that you're also factoring into your own safety as well. Because as much as, you know, I am the center and you are the center of the world, there are other people out there. Lastly, compression boots. So this is going to be the most effective thing when it comes to your training. If you get into compression boots every day, even like when you wake up, when you're eating lunch, and then when you're eating dinner, you'll probably be a sub 2 hour marathoner. And that is how you be sarcastic. I think one thing that I learned from any kind of compression, recovery technologies, massage guns, like yes, they're nice, they're helpful, but they're kind of the least important when it comes to running. I think most people are like, yeah, I want to run. Let's go buy all these tools. It's going to make me faster. Don't forget, I went in order of importance: training plan, injury prevention, coaches, habits, consistency. That's the most powerful stuff. The least effective stuff is probably massage guns, compression boots. If they make you feel nice, if you have the money, please use them. But no one has broken world records by using compression boots versus not using compression boots. People have broken world records by having a good training plan, showing up to their workouts, and then breaking the record. But that doesn't mean recovery is not important. I think, well, I heard one expert once say that it's not that recovery boots are good for you, but it's that they force athletes to sit down and do nothing. And sometimes that's the most important piece of recovery, is sitting down and do nothing. I love cold plunges, I love ice baths, and there are some studies that it potentially helps with blood flow. So maybe that's my way of doing nothing. It forces me to sit down, disconnect from my phone. I'm not running around, I'm not working out, I'm not doing things. So find that tool that just makes you feel good, and maybe that's ice baths and sauna, recovery, mobility day. I like to follow the rule of only run every other day, because now if I have one recovery day in between, I'm less likely to get injured. When it comes to the depths of marathon training, yes, there are days where I do run back to back, but sometimes we're just trying to be an elite athlete and we got to break the rules a little bit. But recovery is such a critical component. At least have one day a week where you're not running, you're not doing anything physically or mentally intensive. Allow your body to rest and recover. Get good sleep. 8 hours of sleep every night. If you're working out and trying to run, sleep is also important. So make that a critical piece after you develop the habits and you followed a good training plan. So I think there's one thing that I actually wanted to ask. What's the most important thing to getting into running? Showing up, developing a habit, being consistent. Create an easy to use training plan. Follow the 4 principles of building habits. Get that done. Everything else becomes a nice to have. I talked about them in order of importance from the experience that I've had getting really into running, trying all sorts of stuff. I hope this is helpful. Subscribe, turn on notifications, follow me at Shervin Shares on all the socials. Thank you again, Pliability, for sponsoring this video. Go download the app down below to start focusing on your mobility. Create that level of insurance so that way you can be injury free. We'll see you in the next video. Peace.